I'd like to call the Town of Wappinger Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for May 27, 2025 to order. Can we please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please, B?
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Donato?
Here.
Mr. Delacorte?
Here.
Mr. Hernandez?
Here.
Mr. Lawrence?
Here. Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes from May 13th, 2025? They were long, weren't they?
I'll move it. Seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Tonight we have 5 different things on. They're all on for discussion, so we'll jump right into it. Appeal number 257840, area variance Cesar Barzalo. Seeking an area variance section 24037 district regulations in an R20 zoning district where 35 feet to the front yard property line is required. The applicant can provide 11.7 feet for a new front porch to remain, thus requesting a variance of 23.3 feet. The property is located at 15 Spook Hill Road on 1.32 acres and is identified as tax grid number 625701003924 in the town of Wappinger. And good evening. Yeah, do we have a microphone?
Yes, there's a microphone.
Okay. So just your name and,
Sure. My name is John Daugherty. I'm an attorney with Rabinowitz, Cohen, DeBow, and Daugherty. We've taken over this matter at this point, representing Cesar Barzalo in connection with this application for the area variance.
okay.
I understand there's quite a history in this whole saga, and at this point, we're trying to just get a fresh start and try to focus on the matters at hand and try to hopefully get some sort of resolution for everyone involved. So, in essence, we just to point out, I sent an email, Barbara, I don't know if you saw it. When I was doing my measurements, they were slightly different. So we in our letter to the town and to Barbara, we corrected the actual distance is 23.5.
I think it's 11.7. So 11.7 to 35 is 23.3. Because we're using the decimal.
No, I think if you go by foot and inches, there's 12
Not the
inches.
decimal.
I've got it at 23.5.
So,
It's 2 inches longer or farther.
so what does your decimal equate to his inches? That's
Yeah, so I mean, the surveyors usually use decimal, right, which is divisible by 10. So it's 11.7 feet, which is,
I just, God forbid, don't want to be too short again.
Yeah, no, I don't know why, but surveyors always use decimals and, works out the,
So you're not using foot and inches?
It's feet and inches, but it's 11.7, not 11 feet, 7
Oh, I
inches.
see what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
11.
0.7, so it's a decimal to 10.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
what
so
you're
it's,
left with is,
It's 7/10 of an inch, which is a very
Right.
unfortunate
It's not-
measurement, but,
Okay,
yeah.
we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So just picking up, like I said, trying to start fresh here. We're here tonight to correct a computation error. As pointed out in our letter dated May 21, we're requesting a variance to Will Gold Harbor in connection with the porch that was mistakenly constructed in accordance with appeal number 22-773, which the applicant thought was sufficient for the porch. We're not here to lay blame. We're just here to try to move forward. The porch is level with the front of the house. The porch is basically abutting a street. Doesn't change the grade of the property. And as far as we can see, there's no negative impact on the environment or the neighborhood, since the porch has been built. So at this point in time, what we're asking is to extend the variance to be consistent with what is actually existing at the property. When we look at the test, the 5 factors, we don't see any reason in weighing the factors, in all fairness, that under all the circumstances, and like I said, we're not here to lay blame on anyone by any means. We're just trying to move forward. We're hopeful that we can get this approved.
We had asked your predecessor to supply us with a couple of plans, just kind of outlining what happened. So I think we wanted to see like an original condition plan, the filed plan, and then an as-built. Is it possible to have those for the next meeting?
Sure, I'd have to get you an as-built, because I will, we had a nice meeting, the 3 of us here. I think we could all say that, right?
Yeah.
Good meeting, and I think we all totally understand what happened. I can ask my client to get an as-built survey. I think we do, actually. We have an as-built survey already, right?
So we have the survey, but it would be good to see the plan as it was filed with the building department, and then also if they have anything that shows the original shape of the building as per what we originally had approved.
So there's a little bit of a disconnect. So when they bring in the construction plans, the variance that was originally approved for 19.1 feet is attached, but in the plans, they don't show the property, it's all just the construction of the building. So there would be no way for a building inspector to know that it's bigger, like they're going, you got a variance so you could build this, and the plans show it being built. And so my inspectors are going out according to the plans, not measuring anywhere, just they have a variance. And then when the new survey came out, it showed that it was 11.7 because the porch was not actually shown on what that first variance was granted for.
If
And
you'd
that's
like.
where there's a disconnect.
Yeah, I think I can show you the confusion. if you'd like.
And
Well, I think that would be in the next meeting where we go over that.
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah.
important in the public hearing that we take a look at what you looked at. I believe it would be in '23 when the original variance.
I think, yeah, when you,
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing we don't have is anything that shows the original house outside of photos.
no, I think
Do we have anything that shows that accurately? Does the original
What
survey?
I believe happened is the original submitted documentation says 19.1 feet. And what happened is the house has like an overhang and there's like a sketched line going. So when you look at it at first glance, it looks like the porch is there, but it's not, because it's really indicating not the porch, it's indicating where the roof line was. And I have a copy of it if you want to look at it, and it's very
I
clear.
gave them all.
Okay, clear as day. I mean, I'm not saying, when we sat down, I looked at it the same way.
Where'd you get that?
It's in tonight's.
And I think that's kind of the whole misunderstanding and confusion that unfortunately got everything on the wrong track.
So for the board members, it's the page that looks like this, which the oversized is the second sheet.
Yeah. Thank you.
And when you look at it, there's a roof line sketched on, and then an area.
And while I wasn't here in 2023, when we were reviewing this meeting among the 3 of us, when I looked at that, I could see how the board questioning the applicant would say, well, that's where the porch is going to go. And the applicant think not on the other side, looking at it from a different perspective. So
I mean, I don't think that this plan was ever submitted to this board
the second.
during the initial review.
this one with the 19.2 on it, the original house?
The original, I think, was a 19-1.
Well, no, the original house had a much more substantial, notch in the front of the building.
No,
Right.
they submitted photos
Right.
showing, and this
Photos
is
show
what
that,
they
and we were on,
saw.
yeah.
And the way it was explained to you, they wanted to take that notch and go straight across to the porch.
Yep.
And this plan shows that the what everyone assumed was the porch.
Well, I mean, there's three things, right? There's what, we didn't have a plan when we reviewed this initially. So there's what was described to us as happening, which was squaring off the front of the house with the porch to make a nice even front. And obviously, it wasn't increasing, the level of non-compliance substantially, since it was squaring off the house. And then there's what was submitted to you guys, which was not what was submitted to us. And maybe at that point it should come back to us, which it didn't. And then there's what was actually built, right? So it's kind of, three steps here. We're trying to make sure we clarify.
We had a variance, we approved it to 19.1 feet, and the building construction plans very rarely ever show a site. It's the plans for the site. So they're out there inspecting it as it goes, that there is a porch. And it wasn't until I asked for a final as-built, as I always do at the end, that we discovered it was 11.1. We were like, how did that happen?
Sure. I would still like to see documentation of the original house, which I know we've had photos, right? But documentation of what we were under the impression that we were approving initially. So whatever format that is, whether it's additional photos or a site plan or original survey, I mean, that would be useful in the next meeting.
Okay, I mean, one other thing I would point out is that the porch does abut a street, a main street, and there are, my understanding, there's bushes and things, so it's not really, when you do the standard factor test in the request, it's really not, I mean, in my humble opinion, it's under all of these circumstances, I would argue.
I don't think we're going to get into that aspect of
No,
any of this
that's-
now,
I'm not
right?
asking you
Like
to
all
do
that
this.
would be for the public hearing.
Okay, but I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think, I'm sorry, Barbara, so you don't have, just so I'm clear on what you want,
I don't know if we have a survey before they started everything. I'll have to look through the file.
okay, so let me just follow up.
And we do.
I thought I'd seen one at one point, but I'm not seeing it in this documentation.
And we have photos of what it looked like when my inspector first went to the gas station. We definitely have photos of what the original house looked like.
Right. I saw, it's in here.
Was the deck proposed in the original construction permit?
So remember, they didn't bring construction plans yet. They came to this board first for variance for the garage. Then I believe there was variance for the fence, right? And then they came to the house. So
And it's the front wall of the house that was proposed.
well, they came in with the plans, they came in asking to go across the house where it was niched to the rest. So the way a variance works, the house predated zoning. If they kept it the way it was, they would not have needed a variance. Because they wanted to go across, that new section would require the variance, which is why they were here in the first place.
And when did they file a permit for a porch?
That happened when the house needed plans. The house was taken apart considerably. So after they received the variance for 19.1, they came in with a full set of construction plans for the entire house, which included the porch.
Anything further?
So at that point, was there a dimension on the porch?
In the construction plans, but it wouldn't ring any bells in the office because they had a variance and assumed everything.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection was that we were told the house was being squared off
Right.
because there was a notch, and which did not increase the distance from the property line.
That's what you were
If
told.
anything, it was less. And what we were given a new variance for was the steps from that squared off portion down because there was a grade change. And that was what, Shalish, who was a member at the time, was asking, are those steps covered? Which he was told they were not. So the variance that we were under the impression of doing was to a set of steps coming down from the squared off house. And, obviously that is not what happened, right? If anything, the house grew beyond that and a porch was added, right? So there's a couple levels of change beyond the initial. And, we've had new members since then. It's a very confusing, the history of this. which I don't think we can ignore entirely. So, having some additional documentation about the
Sure.
original condition would really help, just to clarify, I think, for all the members, exactly what happened
Yes.
and how we got here.
No, and I'd just say the one thing from my client's perspective, the building department was out, looking and seeing the porch being built, and they did everything in compliance with what they did, so unfortunately there
And
was, right? Is that
I
correct?
really need to, not correct it. The clients made that statement a lot. The problem is that a building inspector is looking at what's being built, not at property dimensions. And they said they felt he should have known, or she should have known, that it was becoming bigger. They just get a set of plans. I signed off on them because they had a variance. Now they're out just for inspections, not to measure property. And file as-built plans in.
I'm not questioning the exact procedures, but I believe that there were inspections done. And
Oh, a
there
lot.
was a lot of inspections, so.
Yeah, but I
you
mean,
can
there's electrical
understand both
inspections,
sides.
plumbing, the
No, no,
structure,
I'm
but,
talking about
yeah.
for the board.
Yeah.
For the board.
Yes, they
They
were.
literally
The
had it
structure of
listed.
it, yeah.
So like if we're looking at the criteria, you're just saying, like, no one seemed to object or think that it somehow it was gonna hinder the neighborhood, be too close to the street, or because there's like bushes and things in front of it, I believe, right? And no one, no alarms went up, and there was, we're off by some feet. No one's disputing it. I'm just here trying to resolve it. So, that's it. So, should I follow up with you to see if you have plans, or if you don't, I will try to get to that. Okay?
Yep, that'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hold on, we're not done.
Oh, can you set the public hearing?
Yeah, we have to set a public hearing. That'll be June 10th at 7 o'clock.
Are we going back out there?
Yeah, if we're going back out there, how are we doing it?
If we go back out there, I really expect you to be there, Counselor, and I believe our attorney wanted to be with us as well. Is that not right, Rebecca? I'm just, if you don't think you need to be there,
Yeah, Mr. Doherty has come very much expressing that they want to turn over a new leaf and start fresh on this. So I'm willing to, I have explained some of the concerns that have happened at prior site visits. So I would just ask that your clients not be out and about at the time that they're doing the site visit.
just so you understand, Counselor, this is my at least third time out to that house, if not more. So, it's been a long process here. So that would be what, June 7th? June 7th at 9 o'clock?
You're gonna go June 7th at 9? Okay.
Will that work for you, Counselor?
I have to check, but I will try.
If it doesn't work for you, please contact so we can maybe change the
Are
time.
you the contact, or who do I contact?
Nope, you can go right in and they'll,
I will do everything I can.
so, and I apologize to have you there, but it's been,
I understand. I'm just trying to get this crossed, and been a lot of anguish on both sides, clearly. I'm kind of new to it, but
All right.
I know forward, and at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're trying to accomplish.
I appreciate your candor and, I hope it can all work out. I mean, I'd like to get this done too. It's been a while, so, but thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see, moving on. We're gonna, oh yeah, you got some paperwork from B as well, some,
I don't know if you prefer your clients coming to pick up the sign and public hearing information, or.
Oh, thank you.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so it's on both sides.
Yes.
And then what day is it?
Good. Yeah, I'm going. I apologize.
Okay.
There's a lot of paperwork today.
I believe Pavel Sepko is going to just be adjourned. Pavel Sepko is going to be adjourned to our June 10th meeting. So Pavel Sepko, appeal number 257847, will be adjourned to June 10th at 7 o'clock. Okay.
No, no problem. That's why I moved over here.
I'm sorry.
I could hear better.
Next up, Brian Dufresne, seeking an area variance, section 24037, district regulations in R20 zoning district, where no fence over 4 feet high is allowed in front yard. The applicant is seeking to erect a 6-foot high fence in his front yard. The property is located 127 Chelsea Road on 0.58 acres and is identified as tax grid 605603461483 in the town of Wappingers. Good evening, Brian. How are you? Please, your name and address just for the record, please.
Brian Dufresne, resident of 127 Chelsea Road in Wappingers, same as the address of the request proposal. So, simply put, just looking to do a 6-foot fence around the circumference of our property, 4 foot allowed in the front, so I'm looking for the variance in the front yard only. We're looking to do, I have my wife Margaret back here. We have a particular fondness for fruit trees. We have a mini orchard growing in our front yard, backyard. Growing by the week, and we're just looking to protect our trees from deer. So we are looking to do an agricultural style fence, similar to what you find at like Barton Orchards, Fishkill Farms, things like that. Non-obstructing the lines of use, minimalist fence.
Okay, do you have a photo of what that would look like, or can you bring it next
Pull up
week?
my phone if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, if you could submit that to
Sure.
B, I think for next meeting, that would be useful. We like to see what the fences are going to look like.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, it's as simple as that. Just looking to put up basically an agricultural style fence again. It's about 6 inch by 6 inch square, metal mesh, 1 inch diameter poles about every 8 to 10 foot, and it's simply for deer management around fruit trees.
Would you have a gate also at the driveway, or no?
Considering a gate, also considering like a cattle crate, kind of like what you find
Oh.
on farms.
I guess that would stop a deer, presumably, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, not included in today's conversation, but that's part of the future plans.
Okay, yeah, just if you do a gate, it's the same height.
Sure.
Rules for a gate.
Absolutely.
So if you did want to do one, it would probably be easier to lump it in with this.
Yeah, pretty set on the cattle grade style road management there.
We need a little more time with that first one.
Yes.
Brian, what kind of fruit you growing? Got anything good?
Which kind of apples do you like?
Just wondering.
Yeah, apple, pear.
My brother-in-law just planted like a bunch of trees, and I was like, oh, you're going to feed the deer. How nice you get.
Yeah, we ran out of native species, so we moved on to persimmon this year.
Okay.
We're getting up there in count.
Okay. So, we like to come out and take a look at the property, okay? We would schedule that for June 7th. I'm going to say about 9:45 a.m. I'm going to give a little more stretch between our 9 o'clock visit and our 9, because that's going to be probably take us just a little bit longer than we normally are.
You don't need me there?
No, we don't need you there, just as long as somebody knows we're coming. We don't want to, startle anybody.
If you can mark the location.
If you could,
Sure.
yeah, kind of like,
Whatever the setback is from, the street to the property line, just give us that front line, I think is what
You
we'd
guys
have to
just like from
see.
the road then, basically, then, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing a foot back from the
You-
sides and the rear.
Yeah, it was a little bit unclear in this diagram, like you're going, because it looked like it was further back at the front. Is this accurate?
I only wrote fence built outside of road right away because when I drew this, I didn't know what the actual right of way distance was.
So your intent is like a foot off the property line, is that?
Yeah, whatever the right of way is, I would just keep it back 6 inches a foot.
Okay, so if you could mark that line, if you're able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
anything else? So we'll schedule that for June 7th. Like I said, about 9:45 in the morning. No, nobody needs to be there, but just as long as people know that we are coming. And then we'll set a public hearing for June 10th at 7 p.m. And that's when we'll make our decision. Okay?
So can I open up one more thing?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So 6 foot is the zoning for sides and rear, 4 foot for the front, so I figured a 6 foot proposal on the front as the only variance was me being someone that's willing to compromise. Ideally, I'm going to have it here if you want to look through it. Just some stuff from some universities about orchards and deer management. 8 foot is the actual fence height that's recommended for deer management and orchards.
Deer can jump pretty high.
Yeah, no, they can. So I was kind of just looking to gauge the board's appetite for the 8 foot number as opposed to the 6 foot number. The 6 foot number is me just trying to be reasonable. The 8 foot number is the ideal.
You can certainly request it.
Yeah,
But you need to request it before we publish a public
Right.
hearing.
right. That would be the only thing we would need to republish,
That's fine.
putting it out that you're going for a variance of an 8-foot fence rather than a 6-foot fence, which is fine. We can,
Not looking for yeses and nos, more just looking for gut reactions if that's absurd or reasonable with the intentions.
So 8 feet would be a variance all the way around?
Yep.
Okay.
right.
So it'd be a 6 feet to 8 feet at the front and 4 feet to 8 feet at the, or 6 feet to 8 feet at the side and back, and
Say again, Dave?
it would be 6 to 8 at the sides and the back, and 4 to 8 at the front.
Correct,
Right.
correct. So it'd be 4-foot variance in the front and then 2-foot variance sides and back.
Again, it's more than what I came here today for, but it is the ideal for my intentions.
Well, you should have it in if they're going to publish. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
you'll have
not
to
going
let
to say if
Barbara
I'm
Dino.
okay with it or not, just because this isn't the proper time for that, but.
Brian, what would you like to do? Would you like to just,
I have the 6 because I'm looking for an easy process.
right, I understand that.
The forum of today, so I'm not sure if looking for gut reactions.
It's kind of equally easy, either next meeting we would say, no, we're not going to give you 8 and you'd have to go down to 6, or,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's essentially the same.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll amend it to 8.
So we can do that now. If the board is willing to, tomorrow we can add the second variance, change the agenda for the public hearing to include both, and then Dee would have to change the public hearing notice. We'd have to pick up from her tomorrow or
That's
Thursday
fine.
when she's done, and we'll change. Well, you can give them the sign.
We're changing it, all, we're making a second variance.
Yeah, but we'll do them both into the public hearing notice. We're gonna change the application. I'm gonna change the front from 4 to 8, right? And then a second side and rear yard from 6 to 8. That would be the second variance. So we'll take care of that in months tomorrow. You can take your signs, but we'll have to
That's fine.
get
I'll
them
come
in
back.
public hearing notices.
And our dates will remain the same? We can do
Yeah,
that?
what else?
Perfect. So how does that work for you, sir?
That's fine.
Yeah, I'd say it's also important really to give us the visuals of this, if it is going to be this
Yeah,
substantial
if you
variance.
could put,
Aside from visuals, what other?
I would think that proving that it's, the way you describe it makes it sound very transparent. And if that's the case, you need to
Sure.
prove that
I'd be happy
to
to.
the members of the board.
No problem.
So we'll be able to see that by the next meeting? I have to make, Mr. Dufresne is my neighbor, so I have to definitely see what it looks like.
right.
It's gonna have political flags on each post.
That's okay, too. But, yeah, so by the next meeting, before the meeting or at the meeting, we'll see an actual diagram of what the
There's a
fence.
screen in the proper room, right? I could bring like a computer and pull up for the screen, right? To show you exactly what I'm looking
That's,
for.
that's
People have
okay
done that in
with
the
me.
past.
Yeah, that's okay with me, too.
I think Flash Drive, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
HDMI to a computer.
Giving us a lot of credit.
Now, B suggested that prior to the meeting, if you wanted to send it along, then she could forward it out to us,
Okay, maybe I'll email you some photos to be forwarded.
and then she could send it to us.
Sure.
Okay.
Or he's gonna be here tomorrow, is he not, to do the new paperwork? So if you can get it tonight and bring it tomorrow, that'd be great, too, so we can,
We have 2 weeks.
We've had people
Yeah.
bring laptops, so I assume there's a way to hook a laptop up.
Okay.
just trying to be efficient. Let them just get 2 birds with one,
Very good.
so.
Okay,
Thank you, folks.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The one meeting, we don't have an IT person.
I'm sorry?
Like the one meeting, we don't have an IT person here to help us.
I can come by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's okay with you?
Thanks for your help on that, Barb. Appreciate it. Okay, appeal number 25-7850, area variance. William Ranger seeking an area variance, section 240-37, district regulations in an R40 zoning district, where 50 feet to the rear yard property line is required. The applicant can provide 10 feet for construction of a 10 by 20 shed thus requesting a variance of 40 feet. Where 25 feet to the side yard left property line is required, the applicant can provide 10 feet for the construction of a 10 by 20 shed, thus requesting a variance of 15 feet. The property is located 256 Myers Corners Road on 0.69 acre and is identified as tax grid number 6258-02-880543 in the town of Wappinger. Mr. Ranger, how are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Very well. Can I just have your name, address, and everything for the record, please?
Yeah, William Ranger, 256 Myers Corners Road.
And please, just tell us what you need and why you need it.
A storage shed, because I'm running out of room. We bought the house approximately 7 years ago. We had 0 children, now we have 3, and our 2-car garage that came with the house is not really a 2-car garage. We only got 1 car in it. It's only 14 feet deep in one area and not really suitable for car storage. So we've been quickly running out of room since having 3 children. So the reason why we're requesting a variance is because the setbacks are 50 feet from the rear property, which would put it pretty much on top of the well, and 25 feet from the side. And the angle of our property sort of goes from the road, as you can probably see, and it wedges back into the corner, which makes it almost impossible to put it anywhere in the middle of the property where the setbacks are required. It's also very rocky and slopey in the back, and this is the one area in that part of the property that is actually relatively flat.
Do you know where your septic is?
Septic's in the front.
Okay.
Yeah, septic's in the front, and the well is.
Yeah, I see something
almost
marked
smack
well
down in
here.
the back.
Yeah, okay.
This 10 by 20 shed, the 10 by 20 shed will fit on this property.
It would. He has the room.
Right.
And been out there, but the setbacks are 25 to the side, 50 to the rear for a shed of that size.
Okay.
This is 200 square feet. You can do 10 to the side, 10 to the rear for something under 144, like 12 by 12, 10 by 14. Because he wants a bigger shed, he has to go to the bigger setback.
Okay. Thank you.
So if it was 144 square feet, it would be, you wouldn't need a variance?
Right.
Okay. But you're not greatly above that?
Right, I mean, looking at the plan, what I see, I can see the property's not big to say,
It was when we first bought it.
It seemed huge, right?
Shrunk quite
Three
quickly.
children later, it's like, well,
Right, and
Yeah,
the other part of
gotcha.
the property, I could probably put it on, be on the opposite side, which would sort of create the same problem, except it's heavily treed.
Right.
We chose to put our children's swing set and sort of play area over there because it's shaded. The other part on the top of the hill, the grass scorches out every summer, which leads me to believe it's probably pretty solid rock down there under, somewhere. And the grass scorches out by, July 4th pretty much every year. And so with the kids, if we built the swing set at the top of the hill. So sort of a double benefit is the shed wouldn't be completely covered, 8 months of the year. And thus it wouldn't rot or have a mossy roof. So yeah, it's sort of the best area. If you see the layout of the property, it's sort of the best area to put it. Because of the way the property is designed and sort of the topography of the backyard.
and a reason for going catty-cornered rather than,
Because if you visit the property, see it
we will.
sort of comes, here's the house, and here's the corner I'm looking at, and it slopes, the flat area is almost
Okay.
catty corner, and it slopes downward like this in like 3 or 4 ripples into our patio area. We have a hot tub and everything in that area, barbecue, etc. And it sort of slopes down, which is why we chose to do everything where we've already done in those areas, because it's relatively flat and also very rocky. Problem is it's shaded quite well, so the grass doesn't burn out on the one. But that was the primary reason for putting our children's sort of play area on that one side, was just so that they wouldn't be baking in the sun all day long, all summer long. The shed.
Gotcha.
You can bake it.
We'll have to look at it, but it's a pretty large variance.
Yeah, I used to run storage facilities, so I kind of have an idea of what would work and what wouldn't, and I know that building 10 by 12 or 10 by 14, pretty much fill up immediately with the same property area.
We get it.
That's where I'm at. In the design, we're looking to site it exactly as the existing house is, door exactly 2 double hung windows on the side, black shingle roofs on, black shingle roof to match the house. So it's going to be like sort of in our house, it's a big long ranch rectangle anyway. So it's going to be sort of a smaller mirror image of the house that's already there.
Right, great. Any other questions? Gentlemen? Anybody? Nothing? So we'll come out on June 7th to take a look at the property, probably about 10:15, because I'm going from one end of the town to the other end of the town to the other end of the town to the other.
And I wouldn't need to do that?
No, if it's okay for us to come on, and just, if you could post the 4 corners of where the shed's gonna be on your property, so we could actually kind of see where it's gonna be sitting.
As well as the property line, if that's possible.
Yeah, the property line, I had a survey done about 3 or 4 years ago.
So that's some flags down for
It's
the
already-
rebar or
stakes are
something,
all
it's
still
obvious.
in the-
Okay.
I noticed down here it says fence. Is there a fence running along the front?
We don't have a fence, the neighbor in the back has a fence, it's a chain link fence that actually runs exactly along the property line.
Okay.
The other are tree lined, so there's no actual
Yeah,
fence there, but the stakes are in the woods, about 2-3 feet into the woods on either side. So the stakes-
Yeah, basically, if you could just, wooden post, little orange tape or whatever on top of it, 4 corners of where the shed's gonna be, so we can kind of visualize it.
Or spray paint, right, John? That would work. Spray painting,
Or spray paint it if you want.
Hey, whatever's easiest.
Yeah, whatever,
Lines the day before you come out, and that way
yeah, we just,
whatever works for you. It's just some kind of visual.
Right.
Okay. So we'll be out there June 7th at 10:15 in the morning, and then we'll schedule your public hearing for June 10th at 7 o'clock. And you come here and you'll get a decision from the board, okay?
All right, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
You'll have some paperwork for you.
Yeah, we got a little homework here from B. Not too anything too bad.
Thank you. Keep this up until after the next hearing?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Very much for your time.
yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Appeal number 257849, use variance, 33 Middlebush Road, seeking a use variance, section 24037 district in an R2040 zoning district. The applicant is requesting to keep the current use variance for contractor storage office in place and add additional use of personal storage of cars, boats, and RVs in place on 1.75 acres in a residential zoning district. The property is located 33 Middlebush Road and is identified as tax grid number 6157-01414840 in the town of Wappinger. Good evening, sir. Could I please have your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, I'm Troy Wojciechowski, I'm the engineer for the applicant, 33 Middlebush. I also have with me tonight Umesh Shrestha of Century 21, the broker for the applicant. He's going to speak a little bit to the financial hardship. We just submitted a letter from his office from Tony. He's not Tony, but Tony's away. So, and the applicant's away. I was lucky to have it as well. But I'll run you through it.
Please.
So this is.
Can I just ask a question? I'm looking at the application for Francis Pelosi.
She's the president of the Middlebush House.
Just his wife. Oh, okay.
Who was it, Barbara?
I know the owner.
The owner's wife.
As John
What?
Favala, that's why I was asking who this person was.
And who was it? I didn't hear the
His
answer.
wife, his wife.
Oh, okay.
So this is property almost across the street, the building 5 overhead door, almost complete. And as the chairman summarized, I wasn't involved, I didn't represent the applicant for the use variance years ago that was granted, but in speaking with the applicant and the architect who I think led the charge back then, I had a pretty good feel for what went into the deliberations for that application. So basically, a use variance was previously granted for very narrow contractor storage and related office space. It was very clear that there would be no no outdoor storage, it would all be indoor. And I believe that use was looked at as opposed to retail use that would have a lot more in and out traffic impacts, maybe noise related to that use. But as we're finding out, the narrowness of contractor storage is causing a financial hardship to either lease the space or to sell the building itself. So we're asking for relief from Section 240, Attachment 1, Scheduled Use Regulations for the R2040 zone to maintain the contractor storage / office use, but to add personal storage of cars, boats, and RVs, again, inside the building, as well as commercial storage of the same cars, boats, and RVs, so that the owner could potentially rent out space one of the days to somebody to store the cars, boats, or RVs. The way I look at it is it's broadening the use, potential uses of the building, but I had a real hard time trying to see how it would create worse impacts or increase the impacts. In fact, I'm thinking of a scenario now, for example, 2 plumbers, a carpenter, a landscape company, owning space in there and having their plumbing van or trucks, parked inside. Every morning, the employees come, park in the parking lot, load up, get out of there, and come back in the evening. A little bit of in and out traffic, but that was all contemplated with the first variance application. You think about it, instead of having all that space filled with contractor storage use, you have somebody who's going to park their RV there, maybe take it out 3 or 4 times a year when they go on vacation. Park a boat trailer in there, take it out Memorial Day, put it back in Labor Day kind of situation. So you actually have, by expanding the allowable uses, I see that you actually can have the opportunity to lessen potential impacts related to, traffic in and out kind of stuff. So from an engineering and a planning standpoint, I think that's something that the board should consider. Did go through the questions, excuse me, for the application. I'm actually going to speak a little bit to the letter that was submitted in the financial burden. I understand it's been on the market since October to either lease or to sell it, and they've been getting some inquiries for retail uses, and some other uses which, clearly we're not asking for those uses to be considered in this use variance application. And I understand they have actually a buyer right now. I guess it has a bunch of fancy cars, a boat on a trailer, and an RV. So it's, really going to obviously impede the sale that's pending if this is granted. So there is obviously an economic impact and a hardship that we're trying to overcome with this application. Is your property unique in the neighborhood? And I kind of answered it both ways. I said the property is unique in the neighborhood with respect to a property that's historically been a commercial use. There was previously, I think, an auto body shop building with those doors within a residential zone. And it continues to be a non-residential use with the reconstruction of the dilapidated building that was on that same footprint. But the property is not unique in the neighborhood with respect to those other non-residential uses right in that area. We're standing in one right now, the emergency services building, and then the WAP Junior, also not residential uses. So it's not unique in that sense. If your variance is granted, will it change the kind of neighborhood in which your property is located? It won't change the neighborhood whatsoever, and as I kind of argued or described, I think by broadening the allowable uses to not just be contractor storage, but I don't know what we call it, storage, without the contractor aspect to it. I argue that it would actually be less impactful to the property, and I can't really think of a situation where it actually would be more impactful than the current permitted uses.
So when the original variance was granted to this property, you know, at the time the owner had submitted to us documentation as to why a residential use didn't work and financial hardship to then go to this use.
Thank you.
So in the next meeting, is there going to be some backup as to why that was not actually doable? Like, have markets changed significantly since we granted the original variance? Like, is there something that's happened that, you know, that documentation is no longer essentially valid?
Yeah, I would have to speak to Umesh's office to provide that type of information. You know, they're the brokers for the property. So
Did they do the original letter for the last one also, or was that somebody else?
I don't think so. I think that was probably.
I don't remember who did
The
that.
last time they were here, they had, I think it was an appraiser, there was a lot of documentation, what it would cost to take the building down, sterify the property, build a house, and then, don't quote me, but I think the house at the time could get $350, but it would cost that.
Right.
Or more than that. That's where he was able to prove his return on investment.
And that's a special use permit they have now?
No, this is a use variance.
I wanna take a moment and just go through with the board. You typically grant area variances. Use variances are very rare, and that is by design. Because a use variance is essentially saying you're gonna add another use that the legislative body down the hall didn't feel was appropriate. And New York State, it's to the legislative body to determine in the zoning code what uses are permitted. So it already was a very large burden that the applicant was able to get a use variance in the first instance. There's a couple things that are jumping out to me. I just noted, it seems like there are more spaces than what was permitted under the original variance. It's not supposed to be more than 3 tenant spaces. And I've heard 4 different uses for tenants. If we could just get some clarity on that.
Sure.
But the other 2 things give me large concern is that unlike an area variance where you balance the 5 factors, a use variance, every single factor has to go in the applicant's favor. The first factor here is whether or not the applicant can realize a reasonable rate of return under any of the currently permitted uses. That's not only what's in the table, but now includes this use variance because it is a permitted zoning use.
Yeah, well, that's what's confused me also. It's like, we gave that use variance.
So they now have to prove that can't get a reasonable rate of return, but the application seeks to keep some of that use. So I think that's a really hard factor for this application to try to overcome. The second is that if it is self-created, that warrants you denying the application, and it is self-created to this owner. If a new buyer wanted to come in with the application pending purchase, it would not be self-created as to that applicant. So I think this is a very hard uphill battle for this applicant, simply because of the way the law is written. In these situations, and I cannot speak for the town board, I'm not the town attorney, I do not represent that board, but it actually is easier to consider a rezoning. It's easier to get a rezoning than it is to get a use variance under the law, by design. And I do recommend that applicants may want to have a discussion to see if the town might be willing to look at the property and the permitted uses. I can't speak for them, but I just...
But the building's there. I understand that. I understand that the owner was approached by this gentleman about buying this building from him. He wants to use it for all his toys, but wants to be able to use it as a, I don't know, a storage, and also like a storage, like one of these units that we have up and down Route 9. I mean, there's 100,000 of them. You pass them every 5 minutes, and he wants to do that right here, and pretty much what is a resident. I mean, I don't see that, but you know. So I understand that's where we're at, right? I mean, And I know you understand too, you know, the law is it is a uphill climb here, so.
I mean, another question for maybe Barbara. Are there any tax ramifications? You know, if this goes basically, you know, storage, private storage from, you know, a commercial use, does that impact the taxes paid on the property?
I'm sure, because the way, I'm not an assessor, and I don't want to be, but I could ask him. But, so first of all, the bigger issue is here for me, let's start with, there's 5 overhead doors, but you can only have 3 tenants.
Right, I misspoke by
Okay,
that, yeah.
so that being said, I would have to ask the assessor, does he assess it like 1/3 personal storage, which is a not permitted use in residential section because there's no house there, so that's already a use. Then he wants to have commercial storage for people who want to put stuff there. That's a second use that's not allowed there. And then he wants to keep contractor yard. So I don't know at this meeting if the assessor would assess the square footage differently. And would
Is that
we
something
have-
we're able to request from the assessor's office?
But he will probably say, he could give me an idea, but then it would also depend when it's actually finished, because it's not finished. When it's done, how much is gonna be for each one? Because you've got almost 7,000 square feet, so you can only have 3 tenants, so somebody's gonna have to break that down for him.
I just feel like one of our considerations is going to be, yeah, less traffic, but if it's just what appears to be a derelict empty building that's only opened a couple times a year, that gets less tax revenue for the town, that's being weighed against that. So, I mean, I think knowing that information would be helpful.
Yeah, he would probably have to find other mixed uses to comp it to and compare when somebody has personal use versus partial income producing use, because you assess homes or cell phone businesses different than you do income producing.
Yeah, I assume those comps for, you know, the landscaping businesses and such we have around, you know, and how they assess those, one would think.
I would say we kick it back to the town board to see if they're even willing to allow it before we even get involved in any of this.
Well, that would be a separate path if the town board was going to consider amending the zoning code to address, I mean, I understand some of the reasons, but now to ask for a second use variance is extremely difficult, particularly if they want to continue parts of the uses that were in the first variance.
I mean, I also look at it like it's not done. It's not finished. I don't know if anything's been tried to be rented yet. If they've done anything with it other than build it. I have no idea. We have no information other than it's, you know, like I said, this gentleman approached and wanted to buy it. And
Well, we presumably have documentation of that. Yeah.
I'm more than willing. Come on up.
Let's find out, John.
Yeah.
Who much can speak to
Thank you.
the inquiries?
Good evening, everyone.
Hi. Sir, can I just have your name for the record, please?
My name is Umesh Shrestha.
Okay, and you work for, I'm sorry.
I'm with Century 21.
Okay.
I work for the seller. I'm
Okay.
the listing agent.
For the seller, you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So there are 2 listing agents. I'm a co-listing agent involved in marketing. We listed this on October 7th, so now it's almost 8 months, over 7 months, so almost 8 months. We marketed this very heavily, and all the buyers we got, all the inquiries we got were for, you know, auto shops, auto repair, that something that needs a lot of traffic. But this buyer, I think this is an ideal buyer because he wants to use the space to store his personal vehicles. So I'm going to read from what Tony, the main listing agent, wrote in the letter. This was listed on October 7th. Since then, we have received significant interest. However, due to the existing contractor storage zoning, none of the inquiries met the permitted use requirements. The majority of interest has been for automotive-related purposes, such as auto repair, collision services, detailing, and dealership-related repairs. We have also received inquiries for various retail uses. We have now identified an ideal buyer who intends to use the property for the personal storage of 20 of his own vehicles, as well as a boat and an RV. Accordingly, we are requesting a zoning addition to include personal storage as a permitted use. This use is considerably less intensive than the currently allowed commercial contractor storage. In addition to personal storage, the buyer is requesting approval for commercial storage of cars, boats, and RVs. This would allow him to rent space to others for similar storage purposes. We believe this request is reasonable and merits approval, especially considering that it would result in significantly reduced traffic flow and site activity compared to a contractor use, which often involves multiple employees, trucks, and daily operational movement.
So one question that I think it was John or Dave was asking, has there been any movement, is there any tenants in there now?
No, it's
It's not done.
It's not done?
It's not finished.
It's
not
not
complete.
finished.
No CO.
No, see.
So, again, when we first saw this, the way it was presented to us was that the current owner was going to rent these units to contractors. It's not like he knew them, right? And that was the financial side of what he was presenting to us was, he was showing that he could make more of a return on his investment by doing so. So I think for the next meeting, we'd want to see, how the current sales costs or, the return he's looking to make weighs against what he told us in the last meeting.
What I can
If that's an analysis that can be put together.
Yeah, what I can tell you is we had, for the same property, we listed it for rent as well as for sale. So all the inquiries I'm receiving, they're all related to automotive and that kind of stuff. So actually both the listings are still on the market, both for lease and sale. And this is the only buyer we have. And this is the ideal buyer, I would say, because other ones, it would require that would involve a lot of
I
traffic.
just feel like there was a belief that, the owner had done this research and knew this type to be viable before he received the first use variance. And now you're kind of telling me that it was not viable, he can't rent it or sell it to anybody, no one wants it, right? Which is why we need to then go to this new add-on use. So, I think talking about this is probably more relevant in the next, in the public meeting, but, I think that's something, we'd want to be able to review with you guys in depth.
Yeah, I'm telling based on the marketing work I'm doing. So I can tell you about what kind of inquiries I got to my as a response to the marketing effort. And based on that, this is the only buyer we have. And I really worked a lot on marketing this property.
I mean, sir, I used to, as a contractor, I wouldn't want to rent a spot that I maybe can move into. You know what I'm saying? This building needs to be finished and ready for moving to market contractors to see if they want to come in and use it. I don't think it can be used until it's done. So to say that you have tried, I don't see that that's been tried. I don't see that's been gone forward with, you know what I'm saying? Because the building's not done. So, I mean, a contractor needs the space ready to move into. That's what they're looking for. If they're out there looking for something, it's gonna be, okay, it's done, I can move in, I can use it. Not, well, it might be done in 6 months, it might be done in 4 months, So, I mean, to market it to contractors to say, maybe, that's kind of hard. That's kind of hard as a contractor,
Makes sense.
Hey, has construction stopped?
Am I right? Or,
No, absolutely.
I think it's still going. I haven't been in at least last week. What I can tell about.
It looked fairly complete last time I drove past, but I think there's parking lot to go.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, it's a beautiful building, done nicely.
Stopped while this is resolved.
No, it's continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was showing it to the contractors, you know, they had their own own wish list, like, oh, I want this here. So I think that may be the reason that the seller is doing this. That I'm telling you from my own experience, because when I was showing the property to the buyers, and the seller was also there, so he was. The buyer was asking, can you do this, can you do this, and then he was open to that. So if it's completely finished, then a contractor may want certain things in a certain way. So that's how I'm looking at it. If it makes sense.
So Rebecca, you had mentioned hypothetically that this maybe shouldn't be in front of us.
Well,
I'm
my
interested.
legal recommendation is I don't see how the applicant's gonna satisfy the 4 factors.
I like the fact that what you said about the new owner approaching us, coming in and seeking, I think that makes more sense than the owner of it.
If he's in contract to purchase, he can come in as the,
Right, he's got to buy the property and then move
If he's in
forward.
contract, he can do it.
well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, how can, so my
But he didn't build it. I mean, this
He
has
doesn't
been
own
built
it
to what
yet.
the applicant said they could do. That's the other thing that's gonna make it hard for them, is they proposed that these were the uses that were going to work with this property. They built it with that understanding. So I question even whether the construction costs can even count in their analysis of going back to a reasonable rate of return.
So I just want to see
Yeah.
with you, how can an owner, a potential owner that doesn't own it come in and ask for relief, that it's a hardship if it's, they'll buy it? I mean, so where would you?
Yeah, it's self-created in either situation now, which is why I think it would be better
For someone to buy it without knowing if he can do what he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're also telling us, you can't rent it, but, I haven't seen how much you're trying to list it for,
Sell sign or-
how much the construction costs were, how much the, soft and hard costs were. Like, it would be good to see, if we're going to continue reviewing this, the full financial breakdown of why it cannot work this way, and it's not just he wants too much money.
That's a good point, because you're not here to give the applicant the highest and best use. You're here to give them a use where they can get a reasonable rate of return.
Yeah. Which I don't know how we define reasonable rate of return, but
There's some
I
case
think we'd
law
have to
on
see
that.
some numbers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the financial breakdown, but all I have is the way I market it and I show. I can share with that experience. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. Would it be helpful if both the seller and buyer are here to discuss?
Well, I think we
with
need
you?
to see the actual numbers, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean,
with the
they told
numbers.
us, like, in the original meeting that, $300,000 house wouldn't work, right? Something like that. So I don't know how much they're trying to sell it for now. And maybe they
it's-
invested too much in construction.
It's on list for, its listing price is 1.99 million.
Yeah. So more than a house would have gone for on that side, one would think.
So it's 7,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It's the piece about keeping the use variance use that I think is really strong.
Right, because
You can't
once-
say a use isn't giving you a reasonable rate of return, but also keep that in the dialogue of uses that you want to be permitted on the property.
And once it's granted, it's there forever, correct?
Use variances run with the property.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel that either the current owner or the next owner needs to move forward as it being a contractor at storage area or being used as contractors. And then, I mean, it's only 3 out of the 5 anyway, so he's still gonna have 2 more that he's gonna have to do something with, but to me, this just, maybe I'm just seeing, it just doesn't make sense to me because I don't think it's been marketed to contractors. You can't market an empty space that's not being usable to somebody who's gonna need it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you gotta move forward and finish this and see if it's not viable to get 3 contractors in there and use it.
So our attorney has said she doesn't think this is a solution. What would, hypothetically, what would happen next if we decide, or you decide, or we all
Or
together?
I recommend, because I don't vote, I recommend to you. I mean, it would be either they have a discussion with the town about whether or not this property is so unique that maybe there should be a discussion of whether or not the zoning should change, or they have to continue to attempt to market it to the use that they requested in 2016.
And isn't there like a hard financial burden, like that has to be met
It's
to
very
make,
hard.
yeah, but that has to be displayed, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have to
which-
give you financial documents.
Dollars and cents proof is what the case law discusses.
Yeah, okay. So,
And that can be different formats. It's not one size package fits all. But again, they have to show that which they, assuming the zoning uses haven't changed significantly since 2016 to today in the town's code. They did that in 2016, but they also have to show they can't make a reasonable rate of return with the use that they now have a permit for through this use variance. And that's where I'm really struck, because it's not like they're coming in saying, this isn't working and we want to do something different. They're saying, well, we want to keep that piece and add to it, but how do you prove the financial test then if you're keeping a piece in?
Yeah, I mean, we
I have
definitely
not
need more
faced an
documentation of that.
application with that kind of dynamic to it.
So then that's the question, right? Do you want to proceed with this as it is, or do you wish to go before the town board or speak to Barb?
I will tell you on the record, I don't think the town board has been very interested in rezoning, and this would be spot zoning.
Yeah.
Because you have residential on both sides.
There's nothing abuts.
There's nothing
Yeah, I mean,
abuts.
true, but he did make a point of the town building being here, the emergency services next door.
A
I mean, they're all,
municipal building can be in any neighborhood.
Right.
yeah.
So it's like a church. So this, doing the school and
That's
this,
still count, and the school.
not really. It's not like you have a restaurant and a retail store somewhere on the block. It's, you know, so to rezone that to some, I don't even know what zone they would give it, but it would be spot zoning. And I can't speak for the town board, but I would highly think they would not be inclined to spot zone in such a residential neighborhood. And people did come out from Camellia and Pleasant Streets there, and the neighbors in the last use variance to give it a spot zoning, although it was asked.
I would significantly suggest, I don't think we need that sign for now, but maybe if we could continue this onto the agenda for, was it June 10th?
I mean, sir, you heard what our attorney has said tonight. I mean, those are some great points she brought out, you know, that you guys can bring back to your two perspective, I mean, the seller and the buyer, and work from there. I mean,
I would definitely want to see more about the hardship, the financial hardship, because
I
honestly,
think we all
I'm
do.
not seeing it. If anything, it sounds like if he sells for $2 million, he's made.
And I may.
Good money.
The applicant may want to consult a land use attorney who's familiar with the case law on the dollar and cent proof, because I'm certainly going to be advising them on my side what I know the case law to be.
And I'd love for the assessor's office to weigh in.
I have a note
Yeah, that'd be
to speak to
great.
Christian about this.
Yeah.
You mentioned about marketing it to the contractor. If I can I say something about that?
absolutely.
So I think we did that because when I marketed it, it was first of all we posted it on the LoopNet, which is the commercial site, and then on Crexi, and then I'm a member of the Nice Car Board, Commercial Association Realtors. So over there, I presented every month with Hudson Valley Commercial Realtor Board, and then every 2 weeks or so, I send emails to about 53,000 agents in the area, and there was MLS, and there was I also marketed it in all the social media platform, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and so. And then we also reach out to the local contractors that we are aware of. My broker is himself a builder, so we covered all the bases. But you know, this is the only one we found. So I'm just telling from what I worked on and what I experienced.
And I'm sorry, sir, how long has the property been listed for sale?
About 8 months. It was listed on October 7th of last year.
Thank you.
I just want to make clear that since this is discussion, all of that information, if we do go to a public hearing, we're going to have to repeat that in the public hearing record for the true record, because we're just having a conversation, as well as they're going to want to see copies of those emails, They're gonna wanna see inquiries you've received and why they've decided to walk away.
There could be copies of
Have
the
that
listings,
confirmed.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
8 months ago, it
afterwards,
was an
realtors
empty
tell my
shell,
client didn't
right?
like it for X reason,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'll usually say, we're not going with it.
I brought a copy of the original listing. I mean, if you'd like, I can just.
That'd be great to have that in the record.
Oh, yeah.
Submit that with,
Not tonight.
Oh, not tonight? Oh, okay.
we're good,
Okay.
there's some homework to do.
So we're gonna, I don't know, what are we gonna do? Put it on for discussion again? Is that what we gotta do
If you
in a
don't-
month?
Yeah, that would be good.
Was it adjourned or?
Let's- Last,
I've made myself available for the 10th if you wanted to.
That's
oh,
what somewhere
okay. So I figured you normally do the end last month.
Yeah, but because of the Barzalo, I've made myself available. so-
Okay, so if you would like to put it back on for the 10th, but we're just gonna do further discussion at that point. There's gonna be no movement, there's gonna be no public hearing.
Yeah, and we're gonna submit additional information, and if we can't get that together, then we'll ask to be removed or whatever. But, yeah, we're not
Okay.
ready for a hearing, obviously, we have to submit some.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
thank you.
I mean, good luck with everything. And that would have been our last for tonight.
Did you want to go into an attorney-client discussion regarding a draft document I had emailed to the board, I believe, about a week ago?
Dakota?
Let me explain that, turn this thing off.
Yeah.
I only do a motion.
Do you want to do a motion to go in executive session, or you just want to end and then we can?
Well, because it is attorney-client privilege, you technically don't have to go into executive session, so we couldn't,
Oh, okay.
yeah. They can, yeah.
We can stay right here, right?
We can end the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So it's, entertain a motion to adjourn?
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time tonight.
Hey, no one knows how to shut the